'Cause this deadbeat town's only here just to bring us down. Welcome back to the channel, and it will be Friday night. SCG Bright Lights. Sydney versus Carlton. And for the Blues, it's a chance for not just another road trip, but a big chance to break a hoodoo, a demon if you will, that has haunted the club for almost 30 years. 2 wins from their last 22 at the SCG. That's not a stat. That is a primeval curse. But this time they come in with a bit of form. 4 wins from 5. Midfield starting to click. Key forwards starting to take marks. And defensively, they're probably the most structured side we've seen under Voss's era. Sydney, on the other hand, they're a shadow of last year's grand finalists, sitting 3 and 6, various rows, injury disruptions, and a game style that just doesn't seem to have that Bloods identity. They're back home though, and they'll be desperate. It's fight or fold for both clubs already this stage of the season. So let's run that intro, get straight into it. So as you can see, the tale of the tape makes intriguing reading for both sides. Carlton season so far, they're sitting 4 and 5, not sitting pretty at 10th. But given all the hype about the Blues and all the dissension from their results, being just a game outside of the A almost seems like a miracle when you look at the narrative that's been written. Sydney, on the other hand, 3 and 6, 14th. Dean Cox, his men haven't had a great run of it. But there is one thing that has to be said about Sydney. There's had chances to win games. Their useful and resourcefulness at times has plagued them, but they have been in lots of games, some late-spirited fightbacks, and it's really controlling the moment that's got them away. Points for Carlton, 82.8, they're 10th. Sydney, they're 80.8, 14th. And that is a real intriguing stat there for Sydney, a team that last year were just absolutely dominating the goals. It hasn't quite transpired in 2025. Points against, 75.2 for the Blues, the 3rd best defence in the league from a points metric, versus the 10th, 83.8 from Sydney. Contested possessions though, the Blues dominate this stat line, 140.2 per game. They like the ball in the dirty areas, where Sydney, as you would expect for a team that always plays on the outside, 127.8, 14th. But this is an issue in itself. Around the clutches, they haven't been their usual selves. Disposal efficiency, you harp on about this all the time. A team like Blues, who are so heavily contested, it makes sense. 70.5, 17th best ball using side, versus the 12th best in Sydney with 72.3. This is where the tail of the tape really fluctuates. Carlton 10th for metres gained versus 7th from Sydney. They're a lot more direct than the Blues, and both sides get the ball inside 50, which is kind of detrimental when we saw their points for. Carlton 4th, Sydney 5th. Not much separating them. Under 1 inside 50 per game separates them. And this is really the bugbear of both sides. Carlton only having a shot on goal 43.7% of the time it goes inside 50. And 15th for the Swans, 47.2%. Showing that the both sides are incredibly wasteful. Scores from turnover, Carlton are the 12th best side. Sydney, it's stacked up pretty well, the 6th best side, and scores from defensive half tell the tale. 13th for the Blues, 4th for the Swans. What this shows us is Carlton try and win the ball, and they try and get territory, but they struggle to convert. Carlton are a very labour-intensive side. Sydney, almost similar. But from the back half, they're pretty good. The issue with them is they can't sustain that pressure forward of the ball and lock it in, and they rarely control the contest. This is a real fascinating battle because both sides have the same deficiencies, 2 massive different methods to try and negate the deficiencies. So this is going to be a fascinating battle. Let's look at some of the key matchups in this game that will dictate. It feels like we're always talking about this. The Ruck battle. Tom de Koning versus Brodie Kemp. The master versus the apprentice. And he's stepped out of that apprentice role. He's now passed his Padawan exams and he's now a full-on Jedi Master himself. Carlton's midfield igniter Tom de Koning has averaged 19.7 touches, a staggering just under 6 score involvements, 5.7 clearances and 4.2 scoring launches. Massive, massive igniter, a spark, if you will, in the midfield. Brodie Grundy definitely been down on his recent years, but there is signs that there's life in the old dog yet. 16.3 touches, 5.6 score involvements, 3.7 clearances and 3.2 score involvements and score launches. This is a huge test for Tom. If Grundy gets first hands, he can get rolling around the ground. Sydney like to control the tempo, and he is a big part of it. But Tom de Koning at times has got really lost in this wrestle, this test of masculinity, this mano a mano, and that's something that Grundy's added to his game. As his legs go, he started to use his body. This isn't just about taps. This is about impact around the ground and who makes the other play their game. If TDK plays his free-flowing game as an extra midfielder and bursts forward, it's game over. They want Grundy defensive side of stoppage and rucks and off when the ball is in transition. That is Tom de Koning's effort. Get him forward of centre, make Brodie Grundy follow you. This is an intriguing matchup. Up next, Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay versus their makeshift backline. Tom McCartin has played back this year and it hasn't really gone according to plan. Tom McCartin and Dane Rampey have had to kind of be a makeshift backline for them, and it hasn't really worked out. Sydney have looked shaky all year, and it really is a hole there. Carlton need to clear out space, isolate one of these players deep, and use the other to stretch their structure. This can get ugly. They are a side that really does enjoy turning it over at the back half of the ground and attacking you this way. It'll be intriguing if Carlton trial what they did last week. Lewis Young coming in and staying at home forward, and then Curnow and Mackay can work the flanks and stretch them. The Blues will want this because this could really, really turn the game. Nick Blakey is expected to play after his concussion test last week was passed. This could be fascinating because Blakey is a threat here, so is Rampey. But they are undersized in a way down here and very vulnerable. Tom McCartin is a decent stopper, but he isn't going to be that intercept threat that Carlton are accustomed to in recent weeks. This could be a really intriguing battle, and it definitely comes about structure. George Hewett versus James Rowbottom. The old guy versus the new guy. Very similar roles for both clubs. George Hewett this year has been in sensational form. 2.2 hardballs, 7.6 first possessions. That's 80% just under of first possessions in stoppage and clearance, and 7.1 clearances. Versus James Rowbottom, 2.3 hardballs, 5.1 first possessions, a staggering 90% for Sydney, and 5.9 clearances. This is really a stoppage clearance cage war. Hewett has been setting the tone for Carlton's mids, and Rowbottom, they break that glass when they need him. He really does keep Sydney alive inside. With James Jordan playing that lockdown role, it allows Rowbottom to be the hard nut and to be a real pain in the arse. They've got some really exciting ball users, Chad Warner and Justin McInerney. Hewett is trying to give that to Chera and Walsh. It's a real fascinating battle between two guys who would invariably the chain starters. It's going to be really fascinating which one of these two meets and wins the battle. It's going to be intriguing. And then Walsh Cripps versus Jordan and Warner. It's basically the spreaders with the stoppers. Walsh has found a little bit of form recently, particularly the last couple of weeks playing that more loose role. Cripps, we know how good he is. The bull. He's been having less inside time and being able to float. This is why we anticipate James Jordan will be the stopper here. James Jordan, incredible work rate, incredibly industrious, works hard all day, and his big skill set isn't so much his ability to stop you, it's his ability to stifle you, often getting his hands on the ball. And Chad Warner, a man that is dangerous, one of the most deadly players from stoppage. Carlton still have this susceptibility. We saw it last week. Nass, Jack Sinclair, particularly kicking goals from stoppage. This is something that Warner is the master of. He gets loose, he frees himself up, and it's probably a job where Carlton don't tag it, they give it to someone. Now, genuinely in the forward half stoppage, they have given that job to Adam Sard, and they've used him as the extra. This week, Carlton have got to play just a midfielder on him and follow him around the ground. And I think an intriguing matchup here is a one-riv wall with Sam Walsh. This is one about who can hurt you when the ball comes out of the clutches. James Jordan will stop Cripps. Cripps will try and stop Jordan. But when it comes out, it's going to be what this happens here. Chad Warner can cause chaos in a blink of an eye. Sam Walsh, he's a player that will get going throughout the game and constantly offer you a threat. Sydney will want to stifle this, create chaos around stoppage, and Chad Warner will lose you. Chad Warner does that very intriguing run behind the back of the ruck, which is Carlton's susceptibility. Sard lost Sinclair many times last week. Carlton needs to be on top of that because this guy can kick goals when he doesn't have the right to. Carlton's spread here has to match their grunt. They have to get it away quickly because that is where Warner is. If they do that, they're well on the way to winning this. And then the battle of the interceptors, the link men. Nick Blakey versus Nick Haynes. Nick Haynes is in career best form the last couple of weeks, finding himself loose and really getting off the chain and trying to set it up. Blakey is the master of the rebound. If he gets space and he gets run, game over. Game over for him. Carlton have tried various methods against halfbacks recently. Fogarty doing that lockdown role. Last week it was more of a kick to space, protect that area. This row here is just two guys going match up. Whoever gets the ascendancy, the most score launches, the most uncontested possessions, probably wins this game. Look out for that at the end of this game. Whichever one has the lower contested possession rate, guarantee that side won. And then let's look at the tactics in the game scale. Carlton, grunt, territory, pressure footy. The number one contested possession side, a stoppage differential of 7th, and the third best inside 50 differential. Carlton thrive when the game is on the inside. Hewett, Cripps, Walsh, Chera, they own the contest. From there, they look to push high as a team, lock it in, and have to force repeat entries. But that itself creates cracks. 17th for shots generated inside 50. That is a problem. When you are going at that lower percentage and you are really struggling to generate it, it means if your forward half pressure's not there, it means you've not got any scoreboard involvement. And that is where Carlton have come unstuck. When the game goes their way, invariably they're not putting enough scores on the board. And when they are on the back foot, they're not scoring enough to stay in the game without having to go to level 5 effort. Carlton's disposals per shot is around that 15 mark. Too many wide, slow entries at times. They do get susceptible to playing that game where the corridor gets cut off. Panic kicks and bomb and hope plays. What we have seen the adjust recently is Carlton really try and close down that corridor against them, allowing them times to reset and allowing them to form a team defence. Some of the big fixes this week we're looking at are the use of Walsh and Hollins over this 4-week block. They've allowed the team to reset, particularly laterally, and give them opportunities to get in a very good forward defensive zone. Let Chera as well deliver at times. Chera gets caught on the defensive side, opening up that dumb kick. And TDK acting as that metronome, getting them moving forward, getting them to overlap the midfield quickly. Sydney, it's all about that intercept rebound and their corridor chaos. Last year, we are looking at the best scoring side by a long way, Sydney. This year, they're really languishing in that lower half. Their ability to lock it in is the reason why that's changed. They've gone from being the number one forward half defensive side to 15th. And their system really relies on them corridor switches, you see. Blakey, Florent, getting the ball inside and then getting it outside to come back inside. And the overlap run that players like Campbell, players like Warner provide them. And then the fast inside 50s, try and get it in there to Heaney, to big guys. And Joe and Marty looks like a big in. They've struggled with that target. They've had to negate that this last couple of months using players like Aaron Francis, Hamlin. They're not key forwards. Their big problem is the structure behind the ball when they have it, but also the players they're kicking it into. There's not enough contested wins. There's not enough locking the ball in. That's what you've got to do when your forward line isn't functioning, and it's come back the other way, so it's almost a battle of defensive halves. This week, they have got some personnel back. Callum Mills is an intriguing one, a guy that works incredibly hard defensively and offensively. So that could be a big one to watch. But for the Blues and Sydney, corridor control is imperative. And Carlton have been very impressive at defending the corridor, it has to be said, in this 4-week block. Now let's look at the shot quality. This is where the game is run. Carlton at 18th for shots inside per 50. 43.7% versus another side that struggles. So this is going to be imperative. That forward half pressure is going to be imperative. You're going to have to create, lock it in, don't leave until we score. Scores from turnover, this is the concern here for the Blues. Sydney are very accomplished at this. Their back half and their turnover scores, as you can see, 4th and 6th versus 12th and 13th. The Blues are really a controlled side. They're trying to lock it in through that middle. Sydney, they don't mind. So when them dump kicks come from the Blues, they know how to win this game. Slow Carlton's ball movement down. James Jordan and Rowbottom, the two Jameses, slow that ball. Make it dirty. Don't let it be clean, because Carlton will dump it to you. And that is where they're imperative. Their structure around stoppage defence is really strong. And this is where it comes from, the scores from stoppage. That's why Sydney are one of the worst teams with score from stoppage. They play that extra. They set traps. The Blues, surprisingly, only 9th. And then the scores from the forward half, as you can see, 15th for Sydney. They're not locking it in. The Blues, 7th. Carlton do need more entries to score, obviously from a statistical point of view. But both sides struggle to lock it in, and it hinges on that connection forward. That connection forward, both sides need to be better. Callum Mills coming back does allow Heaney to play that role. Carlton's version of Heaney is Elijah Hollands. This is going to be really imperative because Carlton will probably dominate around the source. But if that goes, Carlton's dump kicks plays into Sydney's strategy. This is going to be a real intriguing tactical battle in that midfield because Carlton do try many methods, playing the extra, playing a loose player ahead of the ball. Sydney, they know this. They've just got to lock it in. Now, let's look at the players to watch in this. Tom de Koning, he's got to beat Grundy, and he's got to own that midfield and be that metronome. George Hewett, set that stoppage tone. Absorb the heat, turn the heat up when you get the ball. And Charlie Curnow got to be in for a breakout game. And the extra around stoppage. Now, I know fans hate this, but Jesse Motlop, he showed glimpses last week in that 4th quarter. That needs to be imperative and there from the off, because at times that's when Carlton get bogged down. When you take away that clean ball from Cripps and Hewett, they know that's going to Chera firstly. They cut that link off. The others have got to get involved. So Jesse Motlop being trusted as that break glass in case of emergency, he's got to be on fire this week and give them a problem. For Sydney, it's quite simple. Brodie Grundy, that battle of the ruck is imperative. James Jordan's got to do that run with roll, and James Rowbottom has got to be stifling. This is going to be where the pressure comes, and Nick Blakey, the massive rebound threat, the lizard, is dangerous. For 30 years, the SCG has been a graveyard for the Blues, but this version of the Blues have to prove they can travel. They know they can grind. They have to show that they can do it. Sydney, they can't afford another loss. Their form recently has been horrible, and now they are at home. They're starting to get players back. Their structure needs to hold up. Carlton's pressure needs to hold up. Whoever plays their system will be in for a treat. This win really is a big narrative in the season for both sides. They're now both at that stage where every loss is detrimental. This is a real 8-pointer to, as we know, 2 teams invariably missed the 8 from the year before. This is an 8-pointer here to say we're not that one. We're not scared of the ghosts of the past. Let me know in the comments who you think is going to win this one. As always, thank you very much for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. We're well on our way to 8K. I'd love to hit 10K. I feel like we deserve it as a family. Peace, love and light. Pom out.
Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless.